Hello, my name is Sarah Schachterly, and this is my second field-based activity for EDU 541. In this podcast, I will discuss Proposition 3, which states that teachers are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning. Trend number 4 talks about how today's students, referred to as digital natives, are different from other generations and require different skills. In this field-based activity, I will focus on millennial students in particular and their general characteristics. I will examine their strengths and weaknesses in the classroom and think about strategies that I can use to help meet their needs. In preparation for this field-based activity, I examined a couple different sources for information about millennial students, their characteristics and needs, and strategies that teachers can use in the classroom. A few words that have been used to describe millennial students by Maureen Wilson are special, sheltered, confident, team-oriented, conventional, pressured, achieving, and technologically savvy. Martin Newkirk says that their brains are even wired differently than students of the past. Their attention spans are shorter, and they are more comfortable multitasking and communicating through graphics than previous generations. Because of these differences, the ways that teachers teach these students has to be different. I think one misconception about millennials is that they don't learn, but this isn't true. They just don't learn in the same way as past generations of students. Newkirk has this to say about millennials. Just because digital natives learn differently from the way their parents did when they were growing up doesn't mean that digital natives aren't learning. One strategy that Wilson uses to help millennial students is to incorporate technology in meaningful ways. It should not be used simply for the sake of it, but only if it enhances learning and teaching. Teachers should also guide students' technology use, helping them to become more digitally literate and evaluate the credibility of online sources. Newkirk emphasizes the use of graphics in instruction to present material to millennial students. Interactive content, teamwork, and collaboration are likely to build on the strengths of millennials and help them to access the content in more meaningful ways. Millennial students want to do and create rather than just receive instruction. Newkirk cites a study showing that millennial students remember content better if they are seeing and hearing, doing the job themselves, and teaching others rather than just reading or hearing alone. So, how does teaching millennial students actually play out in the classroom? What are the experiences of teachers and students in real educational settings today? I interviewed my copywriting field teacher to get her thoughts on the strengths and weaknesses of millennial students and some strategies that she has found successful in reaching them. When asked what gaps millennial students exhibit in the classroom, my field educator Stephanie says this. One major gap that these students have on a natural level is that they do not want to put in the work needed for academic success. She describes a recent situation when one student was extremely nervous to submit a quiz because they thought they had done poorly on it. While the student did in fact do poorly on the quiz, they were excited and happy when it was entered in the gradebook because it didn't bring down their grade too much. Stephanie was frustrated because it seemed like the student didn't care about understanding the information, but just wanted a good grade in the class overall. She said that it seemed like once the grade enters the grade book, the information flies out the window. I would say that this demonstrates the characteristic of millennial students to want to achieve at high levels and the pressure they feel to get good grades at the expense of lasting learning outcomes. Stephanie says that one strategy she uses to address this gap in her students is to prove to them why the content is important and should be remembered beyond the test. She tries to show them why the content matters and how it is relevant to their lives. Another major gap with Stephanie's freshman students is that they are so concerned with what the correct answer is in class that many are afraid to try and fail. They often look for the literal answer instead of thinking outside the box. I can see a connection here with the characteristic that millennials have of being sheltered and feeling special. Perhaps they are afraid of giving a wrong answer because they have never experienced failure before, and it would make them feel less special. They may also feel pressured to always have the right answer, and so avoid thinking outside the box because it's risky. However, creative thinking and problem solving is one of the most important skills we can teach to this generation of students. One strategy Stephanie uses with these students particularly is to read a few complex poems with them at the beginning of the school year. She says that poetry forces students to look for the connotative meaning, reading between the lines, whereas their natural tendency is to approach a poem or text literally. She has experienced success with this strategy with her students this year, saying that now they are often looking for deeper meanings when they read a text in class. After listening to the responses of my cooperating field educator, I've developed a few goals and strategies for myself as I try to meet the needs of millennial students. For one, I really empathized with Stephanie's frustration with her students only caring about the grades and not so much the content. I want to find ways that I can make content more relevant and meaningful for my students. Because millennials care about topics like social justice and they exhibit high levels of community and civic involvement, connecting content to these topics and showing students how their knowledge can make the world a better place can perhaps help them to connect to the content more. Empowering students to solve real-world problems with their knowledge could prove to them that the information they are learning has importance beyond the test. Second, I want to learn how to incorporate multiple modalities into my teaching. Millennial students learn more through videos and images rather than text, and I want to find ways to incorporate these more into my teaching. Millennial students have new ways of communicating and receiving information, and as a teacher I need to keep this in mind and communicate with them in ways that they will understand and remember. My last goal is to create a space in my classroom where my students aren't afraid to try new things, even if they might fail. To develop creative thinking in my students, I have to let them know that it's okay to try something and fail, as long as they learn something new for next time. This will help my students become more creative thinkers and problem solvers, and prepare them for careers and problems of the future.